I was up late, so I slept in late. Actually, I woke up early. I woke up at like 9 a.m. Not get around to cleaning and everything. Ended up answering like a million text messages. Passing back out after watching a couple videos, getting updated on more news, seeing more people react, all the people that were sleeping last night. Holy shit. You can see I still have 3 notifications. I just cleared my notifications. I still got 3 more. I'll check those here at the end. I doubt it's anybody making comments, or it's most people reposting or liking my posts. So I obviously reacted in live, real time last night with the trades. Right here with this first one. What's going on? This was literally when you can see 17 hours, right when the trades were announced. What is going on? Everybody, when I posted this, the thought process at the time, down the music a notch. The thought process at the time was Shams was hacked. Shams Charania had been hacked. And he had to, I mean, I'm going to skip a bunch of tweets of him saying, yes, this is real, 1000%, blah, blah, blah. We might see those. I'm going to show you guys the timeline to give you an idea of how this happened in real time. So you could follow why NBA fans, sports fans, just basketball fans in general, Dallas Mavericks fans, Lakers fans, all these people were reacting because they, you know, obviously this is big. Like when you consider all the different fandoms involved, even though there's a lot of overlap, if you do a Venn diagram, there's a massive amount of overlap. It's still millions of people reacting and seeing this. But anyway, let's get to it. So this was my original reaction, and a lot of people felt this way. You can see I got 30 likes on it, 4 reposts. And you're gonna see that a lot through these. And I did a post here, so I've been doing an NBA like trade tracker to give an idea of the bigness of trades. So like this one, the Anthony Davis and Luka one, I mean, look, it's already 4th in terms of bigness in just All-Star games. I'm going to be doing future ones of these of like All-Star games post-trade and doing a chart like this. MVP votes, and another one that's based on all NBA teams. Because the one thing that's interesting about the NBA is you can be an all-star and not make the all-NBA team. It's a little bit of a different selection process. So I'm going to be doing more of this to like give more context to these charts and like the bigness of the trades, like how impactful they were. I might even just add that data to these, and like you might just see the charts like slightly move a little bit, and there'll be like different colors signifying like I just realized Kevin Durant. There's a G at the end of Kevin Durant. Anyway, I'll fix that typo at some point. Anyway, I make these charts by hand. I compile all the data myself. This is my own research. Now, a lot of people probably would prefer to see this stuff in chronological order instead of bigness order. So like you got like everything from like the Wilt Chamberlain trade where he was traded for 2 guys who at the time were not all-stars. I think they both got selected to 1 or 2 each. So like this would be like an 8 if you get the post all-star votes in. But like that's the Wilt Chamberlain trade to the 76ers. And then you got all these other trades. This is the Luka trade. This is the Kevin Durant trade. This is the Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett trade, right? And this isn't about if they're good trades. This is just how big they are, right? The names in the trade. And then here we go. This is the actual chart in order chronologically. So I quickly threw this up because it was like, I've already been doing this research. So like I had this data available to me. And then again, like seeing players and stuff react in real time was like wild. So here is like, I don't think there is audio here. So this is the Suns bench reacting in real time. Look at KD. Like what? Royce O'Neal looking around like, the fuck? Nurkic is getting his seat. Look at all of them. Grayson Allen, Plumlee, all smart, smiling and smug. Like, what the fuck? I can't believe this shit. There's a quote in an interview that Booker gave after the game where he said a fan is like, hey, like Luka got traded. He's like, you mean Luka Garza? Because like it was so unprecedented that like Luka Doncic might be traded. And then like there was reports coming out where people were trying to like put together information on the trade, and it was like a madhouse. Like there was no really good sources at first or whatever. CBS Sports at the time tried to jump on it, and like LeBron James has grown frustrated with Anthony Davis, like NBA Insider, Sports Center, like, and then it's like, you a fucking lie, like was LeBron's response. I tagged Mark Cuban because I just was hoping, he's really big on Blue Sky. This is me just like, bro, please make a statement. Like, this was your team. Like, he has to be devastated. He infamously gave a quote saying, if I was given the choice between divorcing my wife or trading Luka Doncic, you'll find me at my lawyer's office or some shit. Like, that's how passionate he is. Obviously about basketball and like his team. Well, was his team, I should say, because it's not his team. I guess he's still a fan, but like, he doesn't own the team anymore. He's like a minority owner. He doesn't make those decisions anymore. That's another part too. Like, Nico Harrison is the guy behind this trade, who's, I'll give some context on that too, I guess, as we go through, but he's infamously the Nike executive that botched the Stephen Curry trade by having the wrong presentation available for the meeting. I think he had the Kevin Durant PowerPoint ready to go instead of the Curry one and shit like that. And the Currys were insulted. That's why they ended up at Under Armour. He's also real life friends with Rob Pelinka, who's the Lakers GM, which kind of gives some context into how this trade might have happened. Two friends, just GMs, just talking. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, so let's just go through the timeline. This is me, like, at the 11th hour, so 6 hours in already, we'd already learned some more context. Luka was getting traded because he has an impending Supermax deal coming up. His contract. That's just how contracts work. Time goes by. You know, generally about 5-6 years in the league, rookies or guys who are coming off the rookie deals are available for Supermax signings. The original team they're on. That's how teams retain their superstar talent and don't lose him to free agency. Luka Doncic is a superstar, an MVP vote getter. He's an all NBA guy. He's an all-star. He's definitely qualified for the Supermax. As the meme here says, he carried his team to the finals, and now he's getting fat shamed and traded. Because one of the primary concerns the Mavs had with Luka, apparently, was his conditioning. They're tired of him coming in off-season out of shape, and apparently he weighs about 270 pounds now. They called him out for being 270 pounds, which is 40 pounds more than he weighed when he was drafted. So this is where, to put context into what this is, Devin Booker reacted in real time as well when he got home from or I don't know if when he got home, maybe when they got back to the hotel from the Portland Suns games last night, which I broadcasted live on Playback TV. Booker got back and tweeted this. Dallas Mavericks in January, one last one, we swear, the infamous Luka Booker meme reposted. And then I reacted to capture it fast enough within 7 minutes of Booker posting this. He posts, kept their word, which for all intents and purposes, fucking hilarious. Because they traded Luka, right? So like obviously the last time they'll probably post it. This is me waking up in the morning, and this is again reiterating the 270 pounds thing. Like, I don't get it. Like, how, if this is true, why the fuck hasn't Zion Williams been traded? They've been saying the same stuff about Zion for seasons now, and the Pelicans are still sitting on it. Anyway, and then I got this. I'll skip ahead on this because I actually have a video for this. But this is a quote from Ryan Russillo on the Bill Simmons podcast. We'll come back to this. Again, this is my reaction to NBA Sky. So this is Blue Sky, by the way, not Twitter, because Twitter's toxic as fuck, and I don't like that they show me shit I don't want to see in my timeline at this point. Like, I'm so sick of seeing the crazy far right-wing batshit crazy stuff. Half-naked people, like, in my timeline, male and female, which is crazy. Like, dude, or not, some of them aren't even happening. They're full naked. Like, I don't like Blue Sky has just become my safe haven from Twitter. Like, sure, like maybe the news is slightly slower because has fewer people on, but every day more and more are showing up, and the quality is getting better. But what's crazy is last night I'm in Click stream saying stuff to Click, like when they like literally minutes after the trade happened, like, do you think the NBA forced this trade for ratings? It's LA, right? It's Luka, right? Luka's potential, the future face of the NBA. He's 25 years old, about to turn 26 this season. Anthony Davis is about to turn 32 this season, like this month. And I think Luka shortly after. Whatever it is, they're both turning 1 year older this season, during this season, is what I'm trying to say. So I say that conspiracy theory about it could potentially be for ratings and a couple other things. And people literally take my ideas and like start tweeting them out like they're their own. And it's funny because I say that like I'm confident they were in Click stream stealing my thoughts and ideas because they literally phrased the things the exact way I phrased them. So it's kind of hilarious that I feel like I had an impact on the Twitter timeline. And oh yeah, look right above it. I call it out. Like right here, I call this shit out. And that's why I reposted this. Seems a little crazy. Like everybody's putting their tinfoil hats on. But what's funny is people aren't putting context to their things. They're just saying them. Like, so they may have stole what I said or even had the same idea of what I said. Because let's be honest, they could have had the thought themselves too. I'm not going to say everybody was in Click stream. But what's hilarious is I put context behind that shit. And that's what I'm going to be doing today. So this Luka trade's pretty wild. This is me joking around. Obviously, that's what the Caps for about this being humanitarian effort for the LA wildfires. Here's me retweeting this. Actually, I should call it skeeting. Re-skeeting this. Let me rewind this.
Dallas was hesitant to offer Luka the Supermax this summer unless even if they had some sort of crazy insights to his terrible diet habits, some sort of physical issues that maybe they're
100%. I feel the same way. Like, I don't get it. I saw a really funny post too about Bill Simmons going live on his podcast to talk about how this trade benefits the Celtics. That shit made me laugh.
I still would offer him the Supermax. He's Luka Doncic made the finals.
We want the end of this,
no doubt. So I
he could have been smoking cigarettes, Bill. He could have been smoking cigarettes, bring the ball up the fucking court, and I would still be like, when can we sign you to the Supermax? Yeah. By the way, I've heard
100%. These guys, this sounds like hyperbole, but like Luka is that level of talent. And to be fair to NBA history, ball players used to smoke cigarettes. They used to do cocaine. Like the NBA isn't by any way the most virtuous league. All leagues have a shady start and upbringing. You got to think about it. The way a league starts is just a bunch of dudes with some money pooling that shit together to form a league and get some guys to play for them or do whatever they're going to do. Like whatever the league might be. Like if you're start a chess league, got to be able to put these guys on and get them to play each other. Like get them sign contracts, right? So that like the leagues all have that. And my point is like, if Luka was a smoker today in today's context where pretty much no professional athlete probably smokes shit at all. I mean, probably weed. We know of several that smoked weed. Look at the All the Smoke podcast. Anyway, yeah, I would still like he's that level of talent, like top 3 player, maybe top 5, depending on who you ask. I mean, who's ahead of him? Jokic. I don't think LeBron's untouchable. So you got Jokic, you got Luka, you got Giannis, probably Shea, maybe Anthony Edwards, but that's like an iffy one because that's like mostly Timberwolves fans probably feel that way. Maybe Celtics fans with Tatum feel that way. My point is it's not a long list. So that's me reacting in real time. Hold on, I want to see what's going on here. Any comments? No, it's just people liking and reacting to my stuff. And you know what's really funny is like, hold on, let's go back real quick. Let's go to the NBA Sky timeline. This is what it looks like right now. Everything's about this trade. Like, and my posts have been very popular, so you're going to see me in here again. This Oh, I saw this earlier. That shit's funny. Just wild stuff. And I'll say this, there's people out there on the internet, like, they started threatening Mark Cuban like he was at fault for this. And then quickly everybody realized it was this Nico Harrison guy. Look, they're doxing him and making threats, guys. That's uncalled for. There's no place for that in sports. I get that you're upset. I've seen comments of like, dude, Nico Harrison's about to get Luigi'd and shit. Like, bro, like, y'all got to calm down. You guys need some copium. Click on YouTube. He already did a simulation. Not a rebuild, just a simulation of the trade before NBA 2K updated their rosters. And the Mavs won back-to-back titles with Kyrie and AD. So just, you know, sleep on it longer, makes your peace with it. But I wanted to kind of show how the timeline's reacting to this. Dude's been reposting my stuff a lot. I'll show him some love. Pretty wild stuff. But people are right now recognizing this is the most shocking trade in NBA history. And look, there were other trades that happened in the middle of the night, right? I think the Paul George trade happened in the middle of the night, and that was a pretty shocking trade. Relatively shocking. Like, probably maybe in the top, guaranteed in the top 20, maybe in the top 10 of all time of shocking trades. I think the number 2 shocking trade, though, is the Chris Paul to Lakers trade in 2011. Well, I guess you know what? Let's get some historical context. So the 2010-2011 Lakers, this is what the roster looked like. And in the trade, if I go to this day in Lakers history, they talk about it. LA agreed to part ways with Pau Gasol and Lamar Odom in exchange for then 26-year-old point guard who would become one of the best playmakers in NBA history, Chris Paul. However, David Stern, who served as the NBA's commissioner, vetoed the deal. This is true and not true. He was the NBA commissioner, but he was also the acting GM of the Hornets. He vetoed the deal as the acting GM of the Hornets. He saw the trade as disadvantageous to the New Orleans Hornets at the time, who would go on to become the Pelicans. That's why he vetoed it. He vetoed it as not as the NBA commissioner. So that's one thing worth remembering. A lot of people get that context wrong, but he did veto the trade. But it was as the GM of the Hornets, because at the time the NBA owned the Hornets. Okay, so it's some context there. Let's get rid of that tab. I have some videos we'll go through, like with live reactions and putting stuff in context, people talking about it and giving quotes that were involved. I have one. This one is just like a historical recap. It's kind of a short video. We got Kobe, Chris Paul talking about it, Genie Bus. We'll have plenty of information. Just to finish looking at the roster. So if you take Lamar Odom off this roster, you have Fisher Bryant, Metta World Peace, Matt Barnes, Sasha Vujicic, Andrew Bynum, Shannon Brown. Those are the guys that were basically playing most of the time, and then you would add Chris Paul to that, right? So yeah, those are the guys that were getting traded. That's how the rosters would change. Let's go ahead and get some context then.
They made it out of the first round only once. The Lakers, on the other hand, had brought 11 championships to the city up to that point. And in December of 2011, the New Orleans Hornets accepted a deal that would send superstar point guard Chris Paul to the Lakers, pairing him with future Hall of Famer Kobe Bryant. But at the time, the Hornets lacked ownership and were represented by NBA Commissioner David Stern.
By the way, if you don't already follow Secret Base on YouTube, I love these guys. They're like an alternative news source for sports. They got a nice sense of humor about them. They cover topics more in depth. They do like video essays. They got a ton of journalists that work for them, sports journalists, and I love them a lot. It would be a dream job to work for these guys. Kofi's one of my favorite content creators out there. He's a part of this group. John Boy's fucking hilarious. I don't know if he's like a founder, but he's a major piece of this. Seth Rosen, the whole group. I love all of them. They cover, like I said, all sports. They're known as Secret Base or SB Nation. If you've ever seen their content, you've probably enjoyed it and not realized it. If you like this video, consider going over to YouTube, drop it a like. Just want to shout them out because this is their content.
Stern. Owners were appalled by the deal, and Stern even received an angry email from Cavs owner Dan Gilbert. With the well-being of small market teams.
Yeah, true. So again, it wasn't just fans, owners too. Like, everybody was furious. Like the reaction was basically repulsiveness. Like when it happened. I'm gonna let it keep playing though, not interrupt it again.
Small market teams in mind, Stern vetoed the trade, stating that the backlash from owners did not play a role in his decision. Instead, he insisted it was purely for basketball reasons, which is good because personal reasons would have been controversial. Stern claimed that the team was better served with Chris in a Hornets uniform, a uniform Stern presumably expected Paul to wear under his Clippers jersey, since he flipped him to the Lakers' less successful LA counterpart a week later. The Hornets gave up Paul and 2 second-round picks for a package of Eric Gordon, Ice Age survivor Chris Kaman, Al Farouk Amino, and Timberwolves' 2012 first-round pick, which turned into Austin Rivers. The Clippers then made the playoffs a franchise record 6 seasons in a row, but they never made it beyond the conference semis in the monster.
Putting this in context again, the Lakers offered a better trade package. Pau Gasol and Lamar Odom were better than all of those players. But the Clippers offered more draft capital. So if you're going to go into a rebuild, that is the important part. And if you're giving up your best player, you want picks.
That was the Western Conference. The Hornets went 21-45 in their first season without Paul, among the worst in the NBA, but managed to strike gold by winning the #1 overall pick in the 2012 draft and selected.
And that's even more what's crazy about this. They get AD out of this trade, right? And AD's in this trade that just happened with Luka. So it's like these two things are so fucking interconnected. It's like the two most shocking things that happen, potential trade and real trade that happened in NBA history, both involve Anthony Davis.
Perennial All-Star Anthony Davis. But the deal originally proposed by the Lakers paints a different picture of the future. If David Stern had allowed the Chris Paul trade to the Lakers, the Hornets would have received Goran Dragic, Lamar Odom, Luis Scola, Kevin Martin, and a 2012 first-round pick that turned into Royce White. The Rockets, the third team in the deal, would have received Pau Gasol, who would be the heir to Houston's big man throne with the Yao Ming era now over. Instead of the Hornets season being plagued by an Eric Gordon injury, Dragic would have thrived in his first chance as a starter, and his connection with Kevin Martin would have given the Hornets a respectable backcourt. They're still bad, but better than they would have been if Gordon was on the sideline. Meanwhile, in LA, Paul, Kobe, and Andrew Bynum entered the 2012 playoffs as a fearsome trio, but just not fearsome enough to take down OKC's three-headed monster of Durant, Westbrook, and Harden. In the offseason, the team fourth most likely to win the draft lottery ended up with the #1 overall pick. With the Hornets being slightly higher in the standings, the gift of drafting Anthony Davis would go to the Sacramento Kings, pairing him with DeMarcus Cousins in Sacktown. How about that? With the 9th overall pick, the Hornets looked.
The irony there is obviously the Hornets eventually go and get DeMarcus Cousins and bring him to play with Anthony Davis.
To fill the gap left by Odom's dwindling numbers and selected UConn big man Andre Drummond. As for the Lakers, after getting jettisoned from the playoffs, they looked to replace the void left by trading Gasol and traded for superstar big man Dwight Howard, shipping out Andrew Bynum in the process. The Lakers' new trio of Paul, Kobe, and 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, Dwight Howard, was plastered on every billboard in Los Angeles. The Showtime Lakers were back, and there was nothing that could stand in their way, except for the relationship between Kobe and Dwight. Kobe was quoted saying, "I never appreciated Shaq until I played with Dwight." Team chemistry was in tatters, but sheer talent alone got them into the playoffs. A storm, however, was brewing in the Western Conference. The Rockets stuck with the Gasol-Lowry pairing and fell short on assets in the James Harden sweepstakes. With the Rockets out, the Thunder took a good hard look at the other big.
That's low-key true. Like, if that trade goes through, the Rockets probably don't end up with James Harden. We don't get those crazy seasons with Mike D'Antoni and James Harden and his MVP years and scoring 35 points a game and all that. Like,
offer that was on the table at the time.
The ripple effect of the Chris Paul veto trade is wild. We're talking about butterfly effect kind of stuff right now, and I love this kind of stuff.
An up-and-coming Golden State Warriors team was looking to replace the loss of two-guard Monte Ellis and offered the Thunder 2011 first-round pick Klay Thompson and a future pick. The caveat was that the Thunder had to take on Richard Jefferson's contract, so the Warriors could avoid a massive luxury tax bill. Instead of ignoring this option and dealing with the Rockets, the Thunder, having no better option available, agreed to send Harden to the Warriors. The Warriors, with their Curry-Harden backcourt and rookie forward Draymond Green, would prove too much for the Lakers and their locker room turmoil. The Western Conference now belonged to two young teams in the Warriors and Thunder, as well as the aging Spurs. The Lakers, while always fielding a competitive team, just couldn't crack the top-heavy conference. In order to keep the Thunder's Splash Bros together, Kevin Durant eventually decided to re-sign long-term with OKC. Then, in an attempt to avoid riding shotgun on Kobe's 2016 farewell tour and to ditch the Western Conference altogether, Paul forced a trade to Cleveland to join his longtime friend LeBron James as he chased a championship with his home team. In return,
I don't think CP3 asks for a trade. He might behind closed doors, but like he didn't do that until he was on the Thunder, and the Thunder knew that when they got him. Like, out of respect, they overperformed. They're trying to go into a rebuild. They didn't expect to be that good with him and Shea, and he just kind of showed how good Shea was in that young team. So like they were like, yeah, we'll deal you and get some stuff back, but like the Thunder are so fucking rich, right? It's crazy how many assets they have. Anyway, let's keep
the
going.
Lakers got a building block for the future in Kyrie Irving. Sadly, Paul's career was tarnished when he missed a would-be championship-sealing three-pointer in Game 7 against the Warriors with the game tied 89-89. The game was decided by a flop-induced free throw by James Harden, giving the Warriors their second consecutive championship. Cleveland may not have gotten their championship, and Chris Paul may not have brought glory back to the Lakers, but this story still has a happy ending. A destitute franchise approaching a full decade without a championship hit the lottery in free agency, giving hope to a fan base that just did other things for a few years while the team righted the ship.
It is official. LeBron is a Laker.
Beautiful. Okay. So that's like some of the context behind like what was going on in LA at the time, what the ramifications of it might have been. Obviously, there's some projection into the future there. With modern context, we can always look back and kind of speculate on that kind of stuff. Good context. Here's Kobe Bryant talking about Davidson reversing the trade.
To people involved, the whole renege trade thing, is that fair to the players here? Is it fair to you guys?
I mean, you know, unfortunately, it's just the nature of the beast. Right? It's just the business that we're in. Owners can make trades, and in this situation, the commissioner has the right to avoid the trade. So for the players involved, I mean, it's always tough. To hear your name mentioned, trade rumors or trade discussions. At the end of the day, you just gotta do your job. You can only control so much.
Yeah, he's right. So like part of the psychological effects of like knowing you were in the trade, like Lamar Odom, Pau Gasol, stuff like that, definitely has an impact on morale. Excuse me. It's crazy how all this stuff went down, Paul said. How the GM called, I referenced the cup check, by the way. Me and Kobe got on the phone. We talked on the phone, came through that the trade was nixed. I went to go eat at a restaurant called Z's. That's where I was. We thought the trade was happening. It didn't. Kobe is just special, and it's different. I think I was so excited about it. Me and Kobe were just wired the same. His talents was outrageous, but when we played against each other, we were about to fight just about every time because we were both on that same energy. Had we got a chance to play together, I think it could have been fun. I hate that the opportunity didn't get to happen, especially at that point in my career. I always knew how good Kobe was, even at catch and shoot. He never got a chance to show that part of his game, but we had gotten a chance to play together. Had we gotten a chance to play together, I think it could have been fun. And then here's Chris Paul talking about it again. A little video here.
I will never forget that day. That day, Chris, you were supposed to be a Laker. I'm gonna still say that as my diehard Lakerness is. I know you're over that. It's been over a decade. I'm still talking.
She's all Lakers fans right now. So, speaking of, Kenny Beecham also uploaded, I think he said in his underwear, because he was getting ready for bed, like when the Luka trade went through last night. And obviously he did it so he could get the content up, while it was still fresh news. instead of sleeping on it and all that. And he was reacting in real time, like finding the tweets and the information as it came through about, you know, why the trade happened, who was involved, like the time, like, and he did a great job of reacting in real time and piecing the information together. But what's really funny in that video, he highlights Mike, his friend and podcast mate, as a Lakers fan, has never known hardships. The Lakers, you know, always have had good players coming to their team and like a hope for the future. And like, they've never done like a full teardown and rebuild. Like the closest you got was Kobe and the young guys, but those young guys, you know, brought in Anthony Davis. LeBron James chooses to sign there. So like, they've never had like an era where like for 3 years it was just a destitute franchise. They had no hope. Even when they had the young guys, it was like, yo, these young guys are good. They might be the future. Think about it. If LA has Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Julius Randle, who by the way was MVP vote getter at one point, and that whole crew still together, Jordan Clarkson, all those guys, that would be a quality team today. Those are all good role players and starters in the NBA today. So my point is like the only time they really knew bad times was after Magic, before Shaq, which is a very small window of they didn't know where they were going. And then there was a few years of, I would say, mediocrity, but they still had playoff hopes, right? They still even made the playoffs when it was just Kobe after Shaq, before Powell got there, and they were a real contender again. So, like, yeah, the Lakers are ever since Magic has been in the franchise, which for some people's, like, whole lives, they've never really known, like, hardships as a fan base. So, this is, like, true, like, Lakerism speaking here when she says this.
I'm still talking about it.
I think I talk about it a little bit in the book too, for real, because that was a crazy day. That was a crazy day. Obviously, you know, I think I said it before about how me and Kobe got on the phone. Yeah, that wild tweet. And it's funny, I don't know if I discuss it in the book, but that wild tweet wasn't just the fact that the trade got nicked.
You know what I'm gonna do while we're watching this? I'm gonna pull up the Wayback Machine on the other screen so I can start trying to compile information while we're watching this.
It was more so also about the fact that what was gonna happen with my contract because the new CBA had just ended, right? So that was a crazy day. Crazy to think that was 12 years ago.
It feels like yesterday. I could tweet that right now, and every Laker Nation would be like, "Do you remember where you were?" That's like on this day in Laker history.
Here's another clip. Let's just get into this one. This is Jeannie Buss, who is the current owner of the Lakers, talking about that Chris Paul trade.
I was actually on the team. What happened with the CP3 trade getting voided?
I can tell you exactly what happened. So if you remember, we were in a lockout, right? When there's a lockout, there's a moratorium on everything. You can't make trades, you can't do anything. As we were making a deal with the union and then starting to lift the
lockout,
you know, the lockout rules, all the representatives of the teams had to be in New York for Board of Governors meeting to ratify the new CBA. And so as we're in this room, all of a sudden there's kind of this rumor that goes in around the room about a trade. Well, at that time, the team was run by the league, right? So there's no way a trade could be happening if we're all in this room doing league business, except the general manager of the team felt that he had the authority to make a trade.
Of New Orleans at the time?
Right.
Okay.
And so he felt that he could make a trade. And my dad at that time, his health was declining. And he didn't make the trip to New York. I was representing the team. So I wasn't responsible for trades. So the trade was happening while everybody is in this room. So teams felt like, how is that possible? We didn't get a chance to make a trade for Chris Paul. And so they all attacked the league and said, this wasn't fair. We didn't all get a chance
The parallels here are crazy because, as you're about to find out as we go through this, Nico Harrison basically called up Rob Pelinka. And apparently the idea was floated a few months ago. It's like, hey, you would never do this trade, would you? And Rob Pelinka and him had like a hypothetical. Well, then apparently, like, I guess now 3 days ago, Nico calls up Rob Pelinka, I guess, said, hey, you remember that trade idea we had about potentially trading Luka like to LA? It's like, we want Anthony Davis. Would you do that? And then Rob Pelinka didn't tell anybody besides maybe the executives in LA who somehow did not leak this fucking information. I don't know how any insider didn't get this before it came out. And he sat on it for 2 days before he said yes. The fact that Rob Pelinka sat on this for 2 days, look, say what you will about Rob Pelinka as a GM, he's the luckiest motherfucker in the world. Like, he's literally had the best trades gift wrapped to him. And then, honestly, hasn't done shit as a GM else. Like, every other move he's made has been a disaster. So, it's pretty wild that he's getting this lucky again. Him getting Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis basically demanded a trade to LA. You know what I mean? Like, he's been gift wrapped these things. LeBron chose LA. Rob Pelinka has been so lucky as a GM. And look, I understand it's about networking and connections. That's a big part of life and like business and things like that. But with Nico Harrison's track record of like incompetence, and then Rob Pelinka's track record with just luck, it's so weird. And Kenny said it, like I said, I watched his VOD last night as this all was happening in real time. The reach. But this is why the GMs are mad. They were mad back then that they get an opportunity to bid on Chris Paul. The GM should be mad now and fierce they didn't get a chance to bid on Luka. If Nico Harrison's a GM worth half his weight in gold, or worth his salt, or whatever phrase you want to use here, he starts a bidding war. And this is the other crazy part. I haven't even mentioned this yet. Danny Ainge, the GM of the Jazz, knew about this trade. And somehow the asking price didn't get driven up. Somehow it didn't get out. Somehow more GMs didn't know. And what's even crazier is Lakers weren't even the first choice. Apparently, they tried to go to somewhere else. Maybe the two teams I think most likely that were approached about a trade, maybe three. We'll say three, because there's one. Apparently, there's one other team that was made an offer for Luka. They Nico Harrison and the Hornets reached out to another team before the Lakers, before he called up Rob Pelinka a few days ago, and asked for the Anthony Davis trade. They asked for another superstar in the league. It's either Jokic, Giannis, or Shea. There's no other teams they would have asked for like a trade for their players. And for the Bucks, it doesn't make sense. Nuggets, it doesn't make sense. For the Thunder, it makes sense, but the Thunder aren't going to do that. Why? It's like you're trading a tit for tat kind of thing, and they're not going to give up draft capital. You know what I mean? Like, so, and that's obviously the Hornets wanted some draft capital back in this trade, and the Thunder have a lot of it, but it's wild to me. So whoever the other team was before the Lakers, they also have a tight-lipped group. And they didn't have a source leak it. And I'm sure we'll find out in the coming days who that team was. It'll come out. But just wild. So back then, the owners freaked out because they didn't get a chance to bid. And now, in at least in my opinion, the owners should be freaking out because they did not get a chance to.
But he wasn't going to you guys, so it doesn't matter. But go ahead. I understand what they're saying.
Like David Stern didn't reject the trade as commissioner. He rejected the trade as governor of the New Orleans team.
And that's what I was explaining earlier. He did it in the best interest of the Hornets, not as the league commissioner.
Right? Because he wasn't asked permission to okay the trade. But the general manager, when they said, we're going to have, arm's distance from making basketball decisions because we're the league, felt that he could make that decision without having to have someone
stamp it.
So it wasn't the NBA trying to keep the Lakers from Chris Paul. It was David Stern had a responsibility to make sure that it was a trade that he would approve. So now he just calls off the trade and wants everybody to cool down, because now you had a lot of teams thinking there was some funny business going on, but it wasn't. It was just by coincidence how things lined up. So now our front office decided to make a different trade and traded Lamar Odom to Dallas. So now you can't resurrect the trade because you just broke up the pieces that made it. Now everybody was trying to get Chris Paul, and the Clippers offered the best deal.
Yeah, that was crazy, because I remember being on the team, and I remember guys that were involved in the...
Hilariously, Matt Barnes was on that Lakers team, and then he would be on that Clippers team.
Initial trade, I mean, I think Powell was talked about. LO ended up going to Dallas, and the trade got vetoed. So it just had a crazy energy in the locker room.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because I remember I was with Kobe talking to Chris, like,
He's mistaken there. Powell wasn't going to Dallas. Powell was going to Houston.
Like, oh shit, look out. So basically what you're saying is, if the GM of New Orleans would have kind of just took his time, it would have happened.
Yeah.
He's speedballing.
Yeah. Wow. So it really, I mean, the league isn't against the Lakers sometimes.
Because I never knew that whole story, and that's what I thought. I'm like, dang, how did David Stern void this? Like, he's never done that.
Right.
When it was acting governor of the team that he did it as. Wow.
Temporarily offline. Okay, I might not be able to pull these tweets up. What is this? Bleacher Report pages here. Let's do this. Oh, is this a same? No, it's not. Okay, so this one first. Okay, so Blockbuster Deal talking about Chris Paul getting moved. I don't know exactly what this one says. Something Lakers has Chris Paul. We are the something haters unite. I wonder, let me copy this link address. Just X, will it work? Actually, I gotta look real quick. Let me go to x.com. I do have a Twitter account. I don't use it as much as I used to. Is that basically like, yeah, that looks about right. Yeah, boom. Okay, I figured out how to do it. Kobe has Chris Paul. We are the world champs. Haters unite. I'm gonna actually lock in some of these. I can go back and reference them later. Yeah, these are, so let's go through, we're going to go through these live reactions. I think I know how to fix these. I'm going to fix these in real time as we click on them and look at them. Try the next one. But I mean, Chris Paul to the Lakers, something championship, right? Like, probably something similar to that. Chris Paul to the Lakers, if they can get Dwight Howard and Phil Jackson to come out of retirement, that's hilarious. They did get Dwight Howard. But, yeah, as we just learned, Kobe was not a fan. I want to see the actual hater comments. Lake shows, okay. And take over, keep the hate coming as Lakers things. I wish you could just open them like that and it would work. That's just the end of it. Last time I checked, Chris Paul can't guard that 7-foot German on Dallas Mavs that wear 41. Okay, sure. But obviously, probably making a reference to the fact that Pau Gasol was in that trade. What was this one? Paul is a Laker. I haven't been that blah since Chad Ochocinco. That shocks. Came to the... Is that the... Obviously didn't work. Yeah, I don't know what they said there. People at the time, I remember when this trade went through, they're like, oh, dude, this is going to make Andrew Bynum the next Dwight Howard. Thing is, if the Lakers aren't able to turn Andrew Bynum into Dwight Howard, this Chris Paul trade isn't a very good one for the Lakers. True. People were saying that. I remember that. That was a common thought at the time. But a lot of people were saying if anybody could elevate Andrew Bynum, it's Chris Paul. I mean, just look at what Chris Paul's done throughout his career. Like, in hindsight, this is very insightful. This is very true. And my God, he definitely would have done it. He's the point guard for a reason. Be the best way to read these, obviously. The Lakers, would much rather have Howard. Now Lakers' future rests on Bynum and Paul, who combined to have 1.75 knees. Chris Paul had 2 good knees. So it should be, the math is wrong. It should be 3.75, but again, I'm going to save this stuff for potential viewing later. This person's refusing to acknowledge that they had other players on the depth chart, because they're saying that you're trading your starting power forward and your starting center essentially for CP3, but you know what I mean? Like, they would just shift. Like, they don't even acknowledge that they had other players on the team. Joe Smith, obviously Lamar would be gone. You honestly probably would switch like Luke Walton or maybe even Theo Ratliff to power forward. They are right. They would be shallow at power forward. For sure. I think you actually would switch Meta World Peace over to power forward. Push come to shove. And then you just take one of your shooting guards, probably Sasha Vujicic, and you start him, or Shannon Brown, and you start him. So then your starting lineup is CP3, Kobe, Sasha Vujicic, Meta World Peace, and Bynum. Heard this, the Lakers are banking on Albert Pujols' ability to play power forward. Okay, that's just kind of funny. Regardless of the Lakers, Dwight Howard down the line, you have to wonder whether CP3 and Kobe Bryant can play together. Hoops Analyst. I mean, there's no doubt they could play together. They play different positions. Kobe would just become off the ball. I mean, you saw Kobe on the USA Olympic team, right? Who's going to doubt that Kobe could bring that same grit and play to the Lakers with CP3 as his point? You know what I mean? Like, he didn't struggle in USA basketball. Anyway, Chris Paul's a pass-first point guard who can score when he wants to, and Kobe will work. And Kobe will work fine. I just hate the Lakers always have and will. Look fishy. The Hornets owned by the NBA. A little too convenient. The team's biggest star is going to the league's biggest team. That's right. Follow me. Something about the Lakers being too stacked. And yeah, that was the sentiment from a lot of fans at the time. They're like, they don't even care that the owners didn't get a chance to bid. It's more that it felt like the league was stacking the deck for the Lakers. Give Derek Fisher all the credit. All those hours negotiated with David Stern and the Lakers end up with Chris Paul. Another clutch Fisher moment. If you're a Lakers fan of the 2000s and 2010s, you got to be a Derek Fisher fan. I'm sorry. If this Chris Paul deal goes through, David Stern and the NBA are going to have another PR crisis on their hands. Actually, no, I'm gonna quote tweet this. Jimmy Kimmel, infamous LA fan, show is filmed in LA. Probably going to be on the upset page too. He's probably happy it went through, probably upset it got nixed. I absolutely love Chris Paul, but I'm concerned that trading Lamar Odom would negatively impact the upcoming season of the Kardashians. Funny. All right, and then here's the day after, and the trade had been vetoed. So these are more reactions. You know those silly conspiracy theories people have about David Stern? They've all been validated. Hashtag NBA. Maybe NBA trades. Yeah, NBA trade. I mean, they're not wrong. There was a lot of people saying that David Stern was favoring them. And obviously with him overturning it, changes things, right? NBA sources say trade was not discussed at NBA owners meetings. Says other owners did not kill the deal, but league office did. Again, kind of wrong. Not the league office, Hornets office. Please, a brief moment of silence for our former NBA catchphrase. We hardly knew you before basketball reasons came along. I've concluded that NBA should contract 14 teams. Yeah, contract 14 teams, merge with the WAC and Mountain West and call it a day. Okay. Is this Woj? All along, the league office had allowed the Hornets to negotiate the Chris Paul trade without interference, sources said. And then this. True. David Stern sat there and watched him do it and then didn't nix it until after it was done. Didn't say anything ahead of time. Chef Gyms were lauding the Hall of Players and the draft picks that Demps was able to get back for Chris Paul in the deal. Now what? I mean, yeah, like, still got picks, right? So it's not like it's, it's not early. Yeah, they did get picks in that deal too. Like they said, we just watched the secret base video, so we saw like how that would have fallen out, right? Probably ends up better for a lot of teams involved. Just, I mean, if they draft right, that's assuming that they still draft the player that was drafted at that pick. But a team might feel a different way about some players or prospects, and they draft differently. So, like, maybe they don't end up with Dragic on that team. Steve Kerr and the Herd. It's one of the dumbest things the NBA has ever done, and could open them up to possible legal action. I think talking about reversing a trade or letting it go through in the first place. Kind of taken out of context there. Maybe for vetoing it? I don't know. Question to Stern is, the owners become simply this. Question to Stern is, the owners become simply this. Which is worse, to keep fighting this battle or admit you are wrong? Just thinking about like the parallels between the two, it's pretty wild. Like, you have basically a backroom deal done without other teams being informed. You have a star player and potential, I would say, like, future face of the NBA, but you still have like LeBron, you still had all these superstars at the time. Like, Chris Paul wasn't like that, but he was seen as like the next great point guard. But yeah, just looking back at like the reactions, it's pretty clear to see that like fans, just like the Chris Paul trade, feel like this is somehow rigged, or the LA's again getting some kind of favoritism and just coming out way ahead in the trade. You have the owners who didn't get to get involved in the trade to drive up the asking price or even get a chance to get Luka. Like, let me put it this way. As a Phoenix Suns fan, let's just say hypothetically, Bradley Beal would waive his no trade clause to go to Dallas to play with Kyrie. You have Luka on the Suns. How do Suns fans feel about that? Luka, Book, KD, Nick Richards, and probably Royce O'Neal, your starting five. Maybe Ryan Dunn still, or Grayson Allen, the guys who've been cycling through the starting lineup. That's an instant like contender and favorite. That's actually a thing to note, is like the Lakers are now title contender, not favorites, but they moved up. I bet you I could look that up. Lakers title odds. So, Luka Doncic trade, Lakers championship odds soar, but Mavericks actually have better title chances this year. People hear big names get caught up. Luka Doncic. Yep, and they believe it's something to bet on. That's why Lakers championship odds have gone from 4,000 to 1,800. That's a huge improvement, right? And if you had bought in early on this, because this number's always bigger, like the earlier the season, have this bet, but now like you feel better about your investment in that potential payout at the end. Obviously, like, they'd still have to win it. Before the trade, the Mavericks were 2,000. They dropped to 3,500. Look at that swing. So that means the Mavs have fallen below the Lakers now. I'll admit right away, AD on the Mavs does feel like a better fit than Luka on the Lakers right now. But next season, after free agency, after some more trades potentially go through, after the draft, no. The Lakers definitely come out ahead. Because you're going to be able to rebuild around Luka. And you're going to tell me LeBron's not going to stick around for another year now that you got Luka? And speaking of, can I I hope I can find that. But before I get to that part, here's the famous quote. If I had to choose between my wife and keeping Luka, catch me at my lawyer's office prepping for a divorce. There's Mark Cuban's famous quote. There you go. There it is. Luka, he's my favorite player. May 16th, 2022. So you put that timeline together, and yeah, it's pretty wild, right? Like, Rob Pelinka, I don't know if you did this to make Bron happy. I don't have Bron. The rumor is LeBron had no say in this and wasn't even informed. And he was just as shocked as the rest of us. Fun fact, LeBron and Luka's numbers add up to 100 on the Lakers. Sign? I don't know. I guess that depends on if you believe in numerology, right? Yeah, so that's kind of the context here. You have Chris Paul, the greatest point guard, getting traded to the Lakers, who were a 57-win team, by the way, with the best point guard shooting guard in the league at the time. A still young and unproven Andrew Bynum. He would go on to have a relatively solid career. Not like a superstar or nothing, but definitely a solid role player. An average starter in the league as at center. Meta World Peace, a DPOY candidate, and a phenomenal defender. And I mean, hell, he hit that shot, right? I don't want the...
You know, and he trusted us, and he made us feel so good. And he passed me the ball. He never passed me the ball. And he passed me the ball. Kobe passed me the ball. And I shot a 3. And Phil didn't want me to shoot the 3. I heard him. Because he's the Zen master, so he can speak to you without, you know? He can speak to you, and he don't need a microphone. You can hear him in your head. Ron, don't shoot. I said, whatever. Bong, 3.
He passed me the ball. Yo, it just occurred to me. None of the audio from these videos are recording, so I'm actually going to have to go back and re-record these, or like get the audio and sync it up. I just finished editing up some of that video essay, and I just wanted to do a couple final thoughts in. One, if you could please like and subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. Please also drop comments down below. I would love to get a conversation going around this. But my final thoughts are this. I'm not saying the Luka trade should have been voided or vetoed. I'm not saying the CP3 one should have been or shouldn't have been. It's just giving you some context into the shock the NBA fans are going through. I think history played out the way it was supposed to in both instances. We obviously still are yet to see what will come from the Luka trade with the Lakers. Obviously, there's high hopes there for Lakers fans. Probably not this season, but, you know, 5 right now. So you got a long ways to go, especially if he decides to re-sign with you guys. And he loves LA. He's spoken about that in interviews previously. So there's obviously a very good chance of him wanting to stay in LA. The other thing I'll say about this is, you have the head of the investment group that now owns the Dallas Mavericks. He's in charge as the owner. Then you have the GM, Nico, who's obviously the one that facilitated and made the trade, and all that. And Mark Cuban is not the majority owner anymore. A lot of people are upset with Mark Cuban as if he's the one that made the trade. Or they're even going as far as to say, well, he doesn't own the team anymore, therefore this is his fault. He made them great, he sold them, and now they're trash, therefore he's to blame. I get that second sentiment a little bit more. I felt the same way when Jerry Colangelo sold the Phoenix Suns. Robert Sarver was a very dark period for Suns fans, despite the fact that we had Nash and this wonderful era going on. It was basically the players doing their best in spite of ownership. Players did not want to come here and play here. They hated the ownership. It was just a bad time. That said, I think nowadays there's a little bit of lethargy amongst Suns fans, and this can happen when a franchise has been down because they're just so used to being down that I feel like the fans base isn't what it once was. They used to be called the Madhouse on McDowell because they were rough and rowdy and loud. And nowadays, when you watch games on TV, all you hear is the intercom. You barely hear the fans on TV. Granted, the playoffs were a different story, but that's always the case. And to finish my thought on the Mavs here and the trade going through and people being upset with ownership and the GM, not to get too political, but investment groups are always profit-driven. Pure and simple. They don't give a shit about the people involved. They just care about profits. There's a reason why investment groups often buy or acquire other organizations. They merge, and then there's massive layoffs. You think those layoffs are because they hate people? No, they're indifferent to the people. They only care about the money they're going to make, the profit. I think investment groups personally are bad for sports, business in general, but especially for sports franchises. And I think that all these mergers and acquisitions that happen, that they do, and when they acquire teams like this, they be a part of a media group and these conglomerates, you're creating less competition. That said, I do believe vertical integrations can be good. You look at organizations that do that when they need to get like raw resources up, all the way to manufacturing, to production and out the door. Like, that makes sense. But when you're eliminating competition, it's bad. When it comes to sports franchises, I'll put it this way. One person can be smart. Many people are dumb. And that's what I think happens here with the Mavs. Probably have a bunch of people in this investment group, all brainstorming, spitballing ideas. Maybe the rumors are true that Luka's a bit of an a-hole, but so is Michael Jordan. Maybe Luka is 40 pounds heavier than when he was drafted, but his game isn't affected by it. Maybe the injuries have a little bit to do with that. Isn't that something you can address? I just don't get it. Like, it still feels hasty. This is still like less than 24 hours after the trade, and there's a lot to process and digest. But let me put it this way. If that Chris Paul trade goes through and we live in that universe, I think the Lakers, just like the Luka Lakers now, aren't perfect. As highlighted in the tweet, they're shallow at the bigs position, especially power forward. Maybe they play small ball. Maybe they don't. They probably don't succeed in the first year. I bet you the second, third, fourth, fifth year, they have a lot of success. They go on deep playoff runs. Probably still have a chance to win a couple titles, just like Luka's going to have now. So if you're a Lakers fan, the future's bright. If you're a Mavs fan, the iron's hot now. I think Anthony Davis is a phenomenal fit. You got to strike now. You might have 2 seasons where this really works, and then you have to kind of start retooling again. All hope is not lost, Mavs fans. You're still in a decent position. I think Kyrie and Anthony Davis are such a phenomenal fit. And I think the parallels between Anthony Davis being a result of the Chris Paul void trade to the Lakers, which moves him then to the Clippers because they put together the best package. Therefore, the Hornets get Anthony Davis, who then goes to the Lakers in a demanded trade. In this whole process going all the way back to the Mavericks now for Luka. Like, it's all interconnected. And I just wanted to bring this forward because I brought this up on Twitter. I tried to mention it in Click Productions chat last night while he was live streaming, and I think it flew over everyone's head. Nobody was seeing the parallels or seeing the interconnectedness. And hopefully this video essay I put together helps you see that as well. Again, I love y'all for watching. I appreciate it.